These are all to the climate change. And next to that, extreme flood condition. So we have experienced in Kerala, 2018 flood condition. Japan, Bangladesh. These are all the events happen in recent years. And that heat waves, is it visible to all of you? Am I correct? No? Is it visible? The slides are visible to you?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir. You can.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I can.
So heat waves. If you see in India in 2015, almost 2,500 people dead because of heat waves. Pakistan almost 1,300 people. Europe, you see, France 3,000 people and 1,500 2015 and 2018. These are all the effect of this climate change. And if you see that forest fire, California, Greece, Indonesia, so all the data reported W climate change and ice melt, glacier ice melt is another indicator for this climate change. So, what is the reason? What's the reason for this climate change? Since our energy system completely based on fossil fuel, coal, crude oil, I think they are fossil. So, if you start using this fossil fuel, it will leave the footprint to the environment. That is the reason for this climate change. As I told you in the previous instance, CO2 level increase, N2O level and methane level are keep on increasing every year. That is the reason for this climate change. First, industrial pollution. It's coal-based energy system. Electricity, mostly we are getting electricity from coal-based system. That is the main thing. Reason. Another thing is vehicle pollution. So vehicles are emitting so much of CO2 to the atmosphere. If you see the level of CO2 emission from two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler buses, it's huge jump. Even one vehicle, if you see, if you take, for example, if you take bus, if you use CNG, within kilometer, it emits almost close to 800 grams, almost close to 1 kilo of CO2 to the atmosphere. And you can compare small vehicles, so small level. According to the vehicle capacity and other things, CO2 level is emitted. So this is the main reason for the CO2 level in the mobility sector. Apart from this, these are all the general, worldwide report. Coming to India, so recently, IPCC, Indian Panel on Climate Change, International Panel on Climate Change, has reported most polluted city in the world. If you see the 20 most polluted city, if you count, after 20, 15 belong to India. That too, everything is close to Delhi, Agra, all close to Delhi. This is the worst effect of this climate change. In addition to that, we experience huge temperature rise in the summer. If you see, almost Jammu and Kashmir experienced 40 to 46% summer. Some places 46, 45, 48, something like that. So these are all. This is called India fever. So because of this, they say, as I told you, that due to heat waves. These are all the effect of the climate change. If you don't take aggressive action now, the most of the world will become unlivable condition. So, what is the solution? What is the remedy? What is the mitigation effect we can do to minimize the global warming towards 2 degrees C or 4 degrees? So, since we are using fossil fuel energy only, we are getting this kind of global warming, climate change. If you avoid that, we can easily escape from this climate change or global warming. So, what is the energy system we can depend on? So, solar energy, renewable energy, and tidal energy, then wind energy. These are all clean energy. People are started using that. These are for stationary application. If you want to have electricity for the whole college or hospital, we can use that energy. But for mobility purpose, we can't use that because we have to store the energy. For example, you want to run a car, you have to store the energy in the form of store it in the battery, and you have to reuse it. Whereas in the stationary powering, it's not a problem. So if you want to power the hospital or building, right now what we are using. So we are getting a grid connection. If it is whether it is solar or wind, it's green wave, no problem at all. But when you come to mobility, that we are using petrol, diesel, that emit a lot of CO2 to the atmosphere. If you want to mitigate that, we have to depend on non-fossil fuel-based energy system. When comparing all the system, we come to a conclusion that hydrogen, whatever the hydrocarbon, the petrol, diesel, hydrocarbon, it leaves small amount of carbon footprint to the atmosphere. So if you use hydrogen as a fuel, you will get a clean way of mobility, and we can mitigate the climate change. In addition, compared to other fossil fuel, this is more calorific value. If you see the picture, so 1,141 megajoule per kg for hydrogen calorific value. Compared to other, it is almost triple or double. So that is another reason we choose hydrogen as a fuel for our mobility purpose. Like oxygen or nitrogen, it is not available freely in the atmosphere. Oxygen is available freely, nitrogen is available in the atmosphere, we can use it, but hydrogen is not available. So it is available in the form of hydrocarbon and water. Again, if we extract hydrogen from the hydrocarbon, again we are polluting the environment. So if we extract hydrogen from water, it is completely green. That is what we want to insist. There are other ways of generating hydrogen. The pyrolysis of wood. We have to deforest many forests. We have to kill. That is also not green. And from algae photosynthesis, we can generate hydrogen. We can get very small amount of hydrogen that we have to use large area. From natural gas also we can get. That is also emit CO2. And the steam, if we have crude oil or petrol, that is also emitting CO2 to the atmosphere. And coal gasification is another method. That is also pollution. And alcohol reformation. That is also, we can get the alcohol from the acrylic products. That is also not green. The green way of generating hydrogen is the water splitting reaction. So formula is H2O. If you split water, you can get hydrogen and oxygen. We can let out oxygen to the atmosphere, and we can use hydrogen for our energy purpose, mainly for vehicle mobility. This is a simple way of generating hydrogen from water. Actually, water splitting is not a new reaction. It is a very old reaction. If you see outside, plant is doing that. Plant is splitting water into hydrogen dioxide and taking CO2 from the atmosphere, combining the CO2 with the hydrogen and synthesizing carbohydrate as a food for plant as well as for the human being. And it is let out oxygen for our breathing purpose. This is the naturally occurring water splitting reaction. So we are just mimicking the natural photosynthesis. This is called natural photosynthesis reaction in the laboratory. That is, plant is doing simply splitting water. But if you want to split, it's not that easy. So there are two ways to split water into hydrogen.
Sir, Ravichandran sir.
Pardon?
Ravichandran sir.
Tell me, sir. Hello.
Ravichandran.
Hello?
Hello. Sir, can you put a slideshow, sir? Sir, can you put a slideshow?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
Now
Now it is. Okay.
okay. Thank you. Okay. Now it is put. Yes. Thank you, sir.
So there are two ways to split water artificially. The one is direct way of splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. That is, just take water, put it in beaker, put two water. I will explain in elaborate way in the comment section. So put two represent semiconductor electrodes. It is split water hydrogen oxygen. But currently, the limitation is it is carrying only 1 to 2%. But this is going to be the ultimate way of generating hydrogen in future. But currently, we have only 2 to 1%, 1.52%. So we have to have two semiconductor electrodes. It is semiconductor means conductivity is in between insulator and conductors. Another way is indirect way of generating hydrogen. That is, we have photovoltaic. The photovoltaic harness the photon, convert the photon into electricity. That's everywhere we are seeing the solar panels. So from that electricity, we are using that electricity, we split water to hydrogen. That's what we are currently doing. So all together, this is the natural photosynthesis, water splitting. These two are indirect way of, artificial photosynthesis. This is direct way of generating hydrogen from water by just exposing the semiconductor electrode water to the sun. This is indirect way of using solar energy to generate hydrogen by using solar panel. Here, actually, direct way, it is only one device. The photo anode, photo cathode. Only one device. But the efficiency is very, very less. We cannot afford. But in the indirect way, we have to have two devices. One is solar panel. We have to have we have to calculate the efficiency of this solar panel. The another device is water splitting, hydrogen generation unit. We have to couple photovoltaic device as well as water splitting device. So we have to connect two devices. Indirect way. This is indirect way. This is the direct way. So we are concentrating this indirect way because the efficiency is more and generation is more. So since we are splitting water and hydrogen and oxygen, the oxygen evolution is the difficult reaction compared to hydrogen evolution. That is why instead of calling it as a hydrogen technology, we call it as a electrochemical oxygen technology. So oxygen evolution for hydrogen generation actually. If you evolve oxygen on one side, another side you will get automatically hydrogen. That is why we call it as a oxygen evolution is a difficult reaction. In oxygen evolution reaction, there are two methods. One is electrochemical methods and photovoltaic methods that previous slides showed what are the effects on. The oxygen reduction reaction is the fuel cell reaction. So whatever the hydrogen generated from the oxygen evolution reaction is exactly opposite reaction, oxygen reduction reaction. Through oxygen reduction reaction, we can get again water and electricity. I will explain elaborate with the terms. So these are all the overall picture of neutron. There is oxygen evolution reaction and the oxygen reduction reaction. If you make it these reactions in an efficient way, the entire global problem, climate change or global warming will mitigate. Again, if you come to water splitting reactions, this is the ideal operating condition. If you want to split water in thermal way, the energy requirement is above 2000 degree only we can split water and hydrogen. But electrochemically, the requirement is only 1.23. That is a thermodynamic potential to split water. How simple it is? Just 1.5 volt battery is sufficient. Don't use that because we have to be very carefully. We have to do this because hydrogen is a very flammable gas and gas fire. So the evaporator we have to carry out in secure. So 1.48 is the thermo neutral voltage. If you split water exactly 1.48 voltage, there is no loss there is no gain of energy. It is 100%. If you want to split it below this voltage 1.48 voltage, the energy requirement we can supply in the form of thermal energy, that is called endothermic reaction. We can lower the operating voltage up to 1.2 or 1, depending on the what temperature we give to the electrochemical cell. So this is called high temperature water electrolysis. This region is called endothermic reaction. This is called high temperature water electrolysis. We have to operate the cell at 600 degree or 400 degree. So again, we have to depend on thermal source. That is why we are not concentrating more on this high temperature water electrolysis, and we are concentrating low temperature. So in low temperature also, we cannot split water exactly theoretically also 1.48. Maximum we are operating at 1.8 volt and 2 volt. The excess voltage will be dissipated as heat. That is called exothermic reaction. So our primary objective is to reduce the operating voltage close to theoretical voltage, so that the energy consumption will be, electricity consumption will be very, very less. 100% efficiency we can get. That is what the primary objective of who was working on this water splitting reaction or water electrolysis. Again, if we come to water electrolysis, there are 3 more systems. As I told you, high temperature water electrolysis, almost 1000 degree, 18 degrees Celsius, and low temperature electrolysis. This water electrolysis system is classified based on the either temperature or electrolyte. What is meant by electrolyte? If we collect water from the rainwater, this is not electrolyte. This is actually distilled water. If we collect water from rain, this is distilled water. Electrolyte means, so suppose we take the seawater. This is electrolyte. Salts are there. Sodium chloride, potassium chloride, magnesium chloride, calcium chloride. That is called electrolyte. Again, we dissolve some salt on the water. That is called electrolyte. So the whole water electrolysis process is depending on electrolyte and temperature. So we are concentrating on this alkaline water electrolysis system, proton membrane water system, and seawater electrolysis system. So seawater electrolysis system, we can easily get out. I will come to other part. So first of all, I discuss about the alkaline water electrolysis system. Just so take a KO solution and nickel alcohol. We can easily split water hydrogen oxygen. But there the alkali is the problem because it is a high corrosive acid, corrosive liquid. We have to operate in a very secure way. And it is very, very, very cheap method. Globally, this is the most dominating water electrolysis system. So next to the alkaline system, the low temperature system is proton-acid membrane. It's very costly method. CAT is very costly. You see what electrolysis I will discuss later. So basically, what we are doing. So we have been designing the electrodes and the electrolytes. Electrodes are electronically conductive material. Electrolytes are ionically conductive material. So if we combine these two, if we optimize these things, we can efficiently split water. So this is the proton-acid membrane water electrolysis system. This is a proton-acid membrane. It's almost look like a polythene paper, but polythene paper will not contain any ions. Whereas this proton-acid membrane, we have to functionalize, then it will conduct the ions. In our case, it's conduct only cations, H plus, sodium plus, potassium plus, any cation will be conducted. So this is the ionically conducting membrane. And this portion is this ion conducting portion is called electrolyte. As just dissolve sodium chloride in water, that is electrolyte. Like that, this is electrolyte part. But it is solid. If you dissolve sodium chloride in water, that is liquid. This is liquid electrolyte. This is solid electrolyte. And this portion is called electronically conducting catalysts or electrodes. This is also solid. So if you take ion electrode or simple MS or SS electrode, put it in sodium chloride and KO, it's easy. And the contact between the liquid and the electronically conducting ion electrode and nickel electrode easy. And the interface will be established quickly. Whereas in the case of solid electrolyte and the electronic conducting electrode, is very difficult. Interfacing solid electronic conducting material and ionic conducting material is very difficult. So we optimize the electronically conducting electrodes and ionically conducting solid material to get a maximum efficiency. We see the overall efficiency is depending on the total voltage. This is the total voltage. The V0 is the theoretical voltage. So we cannot change it. This is thermal potential. We can't change it. This is anode over potential. The over potential exists on the anode side. And this is the cathode over potential exists on the cathode side. This is the conductivity, not electric, ionic conductivity. Ionic conductivity at the solid electrolyte. The ionic conductivity of the electrolyte. And this portion is called interface resistance. The interface between the solid electrolyte and the solid electronic material. So we have to minimize all the over potential so that we can get a good, very less voltage. So we cannot change this. We can change all the four things: anode over potential, cathode over potential, ionic conductivity, interface resistance. So interface between the electronically conductivity and ionic conductivity. So if you reduce all the four portion, we can get voltage almost close to the theoretical voltage, so that we can get maximum efficiency. So we optimize certain things that we have prepared characteristics, that is electronic conductive characteristics with the normal way, and in the presence of surfactant, we can reduce the particle size, we can get more efficient and less voltage. So without surfactants, if you see, this over voltage is almost above 1 volt. But if you reduce the particle size, we can reduce the voltage by 0.2 volt. That means 200 millivolt. This is how we perform the experiment. How much voltage we can able to reduce. If it start reducing after any changes, we throw away. So if there is a reduction in the over potential or reduction in the energy consumption, we can go for further scale up. So based on that, we have assembled a cell and we have tested the catalyst. As I told you, if we raise the temperature, we can also reduce the over voltage. So for 80 degree, it is 1.8 volt. Versus 30 degree, almost close to 2 volt. So temperature also playing a major role, as I told you in the previous. Based on that, we assembled a small cell for our hydrogenation reaction in our lab. Actually, in our lab, we are not buying hydrogen from the vendors or gas in the cylinders. Actually, for our electrochemical, our chemical reaction, we are generating hydrogen. 80 liters per hour capacity. After that, the company is requested for high capacity. We also assembled a high capacity, that is 1000. 1 nm cube means 1000 liter per hour capacity hydrogen generator. And this also we have two portion. Here if you see, this is the electrolyzer portion. This is the water electrolyzer system. Here the water tank. This portion is electrical part. Switched mode power supply, this portion. And this portion is the electronic control system. Okay, if you see the portion, this is water portion. This is electrochemical part. This is electronic parts. This is electrical parts. Switched mode power supply. Everything is controlled by this system. Because this hydrogen is very flammable gas. There should not be any mixing of hydrogen and oxygen. If it is above 3%, we see a possibility of fire accident. That is why we have to have safety of this entire system. So we have installed inside the cell that hydrogen sensor many places. If there is by any error, there is a mixing of gas, it automatic system will check. After that, we have initial time we have connected the electrolyzer to grid power. Now we are generating hydrogen through this solar powered system. So as I told you, there are two systems. So one is solar system, another is water system. So we have two systems. So we have to couple two systems. Solar plates for harnessing electricity from the photons. From the electricity, we have converted this water into hydrogen oxygen. This is a system they were running, we are cutting data. So depending on that, what's that flux, solar flux, we can get. There is a dull, the rainy season, we get less amount of electricity. Accordingly, we get less amount of hydrogen. If it is some part somewhere, we will get more electricity, and we will get more hydrogen. So in this system, there's a lot of electronic components involved. First of all, so we have to have we have more plates. So we have to step down the voltage according to the requirement of a water electrolysis system. So there are so many electronics involved in this portion. In addition to that, when you couple it to solar system, renewable energy system, again there are many electronic components, electrical components involved in that. So this is the system we have given to the Oman and DRC Mumbai, which is installed and is running. So what is the electronic portion? Electrolysis usually take DC-DC converter to reduce the voltage according to the requirement of the water electric system. We have to use topology for this design of this power converter. So there are so many things available, but according to the requirement, we have to design. We have to have a correct DC-DC converter for the electrolysis system. So again, coming to this other system of generating hydrogen, there is photoelectrochemical. Whatever I told is electrochemical. This we have to use 2 ways. But in the photoelectrochemical system, directly exposing the water to the sunlight, that will absorb sunlight and to split the water into hydrogen. As I told you the previous slide, it is only 2% because the problem is duality. What's mean duality? If the semiconductor is not a good light absorber, it will not stable in water. If it is stable in water, it is not a good light absorber. It is called duality problem. So we have to design a semiconductor such a way that it should be stable in water. At the same time, it has to absorb the solar light in an efficient way to split water and hydrogen also. So there are so many semiconductors available to use for water splitting reaction. You see the picture: cadmium selenide, cadmium sulfide, zinc oxide, iron oxide, tungsten oxide, Ta. So the band gap means the distance between the conduction band and the valence band. That is called band gap. Usually, in our solar, natural sunlight, 98% is visible region. That is the wavelength of this visible region, 400 nanometer to 800 nanometer. So below that is called UV light. Above that is IR, infrared. So usually all this material, the band gap is above 3%, 3 electron volt. You should absorb only UV light. So the natural sunlight, we have only 5% of the UV light. Rest is visible region. So we have to design semiconductor such a way that it has maximum it has to absorb the visible region. So to absorb visible light, we have to have band gap close to 2 or 2.2. So compared to all the materials, this titanium dioxide is the very stable material, but the band gap is 2.2. This is iron oxide is close to 2. It will have good light absorption capacity, but it is not stable. Whereas this is stable material, but the band gap is very high. So if you reduce the band gap of titanium dioxide close to 2 or 2.5, it will absorb visible region. I mean, 400 800 nanometer wavelength it will absorb, and it will give more photons and it will give more light emission. That's what everybody is trying to reduce the band gap and enhance the stability of this photoreceptors and more light emission. So in our lab, we did some work on this KaO2 to reduce the band gap. We have prepared this titanium nanotube of almost 100 nanometer. With that, we instituted to nitrogen. Material and other side is black and black. And we have done the experiment, the photo water splitting reaction outside in natural sunlight. Instead of doing that solar simulated sunlight, we have to have a real system to observe solar light and how much light is generated. We have done the outside, the natural sunlight. We got almost the 1 volt of OCD. The photo current of 700 something like that. Microampere. That is close to, it is 0.7, close to 1%, efficiency. So we compared our result with the global reported value so far. The STH, solar to hydrogen efficiency. This is called STH. You see, the efficiency is almost 0.5% and the stability is almost 120 hours. Never matched it with this. So highest level report so far in the recently published paper on this. So these are all the hydrogen generation method. Electrochemical method, indirect way of generating hydrogen. Both electrochemical method, direct way of generating hydrogen, but the efficiency is less. Whereas in the case of indirect method, we can get up to 50%, 60%, 70%, 80% we can get. Whereas this direct method, we can get only 1%, 2%, less than 2% so far reported in the global report. So how we can replace the hydrogen for our mobility purpose? The electricity is generated by this method. These are all coal, natural gas, oil. We can generate. This is not a green way of generating electricity. Hydropower, solar, wind, geothermal, tidal. These are all green way of generating hydrogen. These are all called renewable. And this three method is called non-renewable. We cannot renew coal. We cannot renew natural gas. We cannot oil. We cannot. But whereas these things are renewable. Renewable way of generating hydrogen. Renewable way of generating electricity. So these things, this hydro, solar, wind, geothermal, tidal energy, we can use this renewable electricity. Good. This is for stationary application. We can generate a solar energy, wind energy in a particular place. And we can give the electricity to the grid and again the grid to our home and other places, industry, we can use that. What about running them? Vehicles. That is where fuel cell is playing a major role. Fuel cell is a device which converts chemical free energy into electric energy. Very simple system to generate electricity. So only we have to generate hydrogen because oxygen is available in the atmosphere. We can use that oxygen for this reaction. So only we have to use hydrogen to get electricity. Again, that fuel cell is divided into various categories because of this, based on this membrane, potassium, alkali, and high temperature solid oxide. Again, like water electrolysis, is also classified based on electrolyte or temperature. This thing we cannot use. Alkali system, as I told you, potassium hydroxide is also liquid, phosphoric acid also. Not safe to use it. And high temperature electrolysis motors are high temperature. So we cannot have this high temperature in our vehicle. So this motor carbonate fuels and solid oxide fuels are best for stationary application. If you want to power some isolated buildings, some perimeters, some remote places, we can use this high temperature fuel cell. For mobility purpose, we have to depend on only the polymer electrolyte. This is also low temperature, but the corrosion leakage is very dangerous. The phosphoric acid. So we are concentrating this polymer electrolyte based fuel cell for our electricity generation on-site, onboard electricity generation. So this is the fuel cell reaction. That is, on the anode side, hydrogen is getting oxidized to proton. The proton is transported to this. Again, this is the membrane portion. Electrolyte, like in the case of water electrolysis, it is hydrogen as soon as it touches the electrode to get oxidized and it generate proton. The proton is coming to the other side, this cathode side, where we can pump air. Pump air. The air contains oxygen. We combine with the oxygen to produce water and electricity. Very simple reaction to generate electricity on board. So you can see that visual. So the hydrogen that's generated from this hydrogen stored in a tank. In the tank, we can release the hydrogen as soon as it touches the anode portion, it gets oxidized. It oxidized, and the electron is coming to power, and the proton is coming to the other side, combined with the oxygen, it gives clean water. This is the very, very, very simple system to generate green way of electricity. Only thing is you have to have hydrogen from water. Again, come to this picture, the operating condition of this fuel cell. Again, the theoretical voltage only 1.23. As soon as you put two gases, one side anode side hydrogen, and the other side oxygen, yeah, you'll get 1 volt or 1.3 voltage. It is a drop in this region. It's due to the lack of non-functioning of electrocatalyst. If the catalyst is not proper, small drop in voltage. And another portion, if the interface, as I told you, the electrode interface not proper, again the drop will be there. Because both are solid. Electrolyte also solid, electrode also solid, so that the drop will be more. We have to have proper electrode interface so that we can minimize this portion. And third one is the free portion. If you stop hydrogen, the voltage diminish. As soon as you stop hydrogen, you will not get any voltage. This is a ohmic, mass transport loss. So if you minimize all this, anyway, we are going to supply hydrogen, there will be this, we can avoid. We have to have good catalyst and interface. Good catalyst and good interface, so that we can get a good theoretical voltage and operating voltage. Again, here the voltage is only 1 volt in this cell, for one cell. But when you operate a bus or you need 100 or 80, something like that, we have got that kind of voltage. So we have to have 100 or 80 cell to operate the bus. Here also, electron is playing a major role. For example, when you pass gas, you get OCD. But when you drain out current, the operating voltage will be 0.3 to 0.5, depending on the electrocatalyst work function. So, in order to enhance the voltage, again we are depending on the DC-DC converter. In the case of water electrolysis, we have to step down the solar energy voltage, the requirement of the water electrolysis. Whereas, in the case of fuel cell operation, we have to have step up. We have to step up because the fuel cell will get this much voltage. We have to step up this voltage according to the vehicle requirement. So DC-DC, again, DC-DC converter playing a major role. That portion is separate portion. Actually, the electronics components involved in fuel cell, when you put it in the real vehicle and running, this DC-DC converter and electrical portion is very, very important. This fuel cell portion is maybe majority of the portion depending on the chemist portion. And this, when you put it in the real device, the electron is playing a major role. So all together, chemistry knowledge and this electronic knowledge, we have to couple together. Then only we can have a real workable device. So the fuel cell application, the various topology converter is used for this application, so that we can reduce the size of the fuel cell, cost, efficiency, and overall reliability on this system. So we can use that fuel cell in the e-mobility purpose. So various vehicles are there, 2-wheeler, 4-wheeler buses are there. Accordingly, we have to have a converter. So this is the entire portion is, power electronics is a big area. As a people, majority of the people attending this electronics, so we can concentrate on this. We can have a literature. That's what it is. If you want, I can send you. If you want, I can send you literature on this. Power electronics for fuel cell application. We can work on this. This is a wonderful system. Then only we can have a workable device, economically workable. We can realize the hydrogen economy through this power electronics. So coming to this other uses of this climate mitigation. So as I told you in the beginning, CO2 is a major portion for this climate change or global warming. So we have been working on this, how to convert this emitted, industry emitted CO2 to value-added product. So for example, if you convert this CO2 to methanol, formic acid, ethanol, methane, this is also another way of mitigating the climate change or global warming. So we have been working on this methanol synthesis and formic acid synthesis from the CO2. This is electrochemically we can convert this CO2 into methanol, and here also there are so many problems are there. We have to have a selective catalyst. So there are several products. When you reduce CO2, there are several products: methane, ethylene, methanol, CO, formic acid. So according to the product, we have to have a catalyst. So if you want methanol, we have the different catalyst. If you want the ethanol, we have formic acid, we have different catalyst. So if you design a catalyst such that we can easily convert this CO2 into liquid fuel. Again, the liquid fuel can be used for running the fuel cell. So this is called methanol fuel cell. So this is a big chapter. So we have to take separate class for methanol fuels. So again, this methanol can be used as a fuel for, and instead of hydrogen, you can have methanol to run the vehicle. There is also a separate fuel. So this is another way of mitigating the global warming or climate change by converting CO2 to useful product. So this is what we are working to mitigate reduce the global warming. So coming to the global scenario. So as I told you that because the CO2 level raise is the main reason for this global. So in this period, this is lockdown now with the Corona time, almost entire globe is locked down. As a beginning, I projected one slide. Now, this is the recent measurement made by this. Global warming is, CO2 emission is reduced. The month of February to May 2020, if you see there is a daily CO2 level is reduced. So this is the clear indication that global warming is due to the CO2 emission. Almost 7% decrease in the global CO2 level in the month of March, April. And by sector-wise, how much we can see. The power system, the electricity generation, in the month of lockdown period, we can see this February, March, how much CO2 daily fossil fuel and CO2 emission is reduced. The industry, heavy industry, they are also the drastic reduction in CO2 emission. The surface transport. If you see surface transport, petrol, diesel, that drastic reduction in surface transport compared to other power industry and heavy industry. So major emission is surface transport. We see how much drastic decrease CO2. So this surface transport is vehicle only. So vehicle pollution is a major for the CO2 raise. So these are all the recent measurement. There's a lockdown period that CO2 level is measured, and you see there is a drastic decrease in CO2 emission in the atmosphere. But the major contribution is from surface transport. So much reduction in CO2 level in the transport area. And other residential areas are very, very small. And aviation also, there's a drastic decrease. Aviation also use petrol. There is a very drastic reduction. Wherever there's a liquid fuel is used, there is a drastic reduction in CO2 emission. So coming to this where and all this hydrogen used. Iceland is the first country to use hydrogen vehicle. The first country in the globe to use entire platform. Depending on they're not using fossil fuel. There is only hydrogen to run the bus, either in the form of fuel cell or they are mixing with other diesel or natural gas along with hydrogen in the IC engine, either fuel cell or IC engine. 100% the all buses are running in the hydrogen. Next to Iceland, that Germany is going with you. There are almost 150 hydrogen stations are there to run the vehicle on fuel cell or either fuel cell or IC engine. So in 2017, that train is running in Germany, 100% on fuel cell using the renewable hydrogen. So they are generating hydrogen actually in Saudi Arabia and shipping to the home country. And they are running first train in global. This is the first train running on the fuel cell. So next to Germany, there is Japan also having so many places with hydrogen filling station for running the vehicle. Mostly they are concentrating on this fuel cell based vehicle rather than IC engines. Because IC engine, the evidence is very less to use hydrogen in the IC engine, internal combustion engine. So the kind of use it very less. Whereas if you use fuel cell, the efficiency is almost you can get 50-60% efficiency in use fuel cell. And UK is having a lot of wind energy, and from the wind energy, they are using hydrogen, generating hydrogen, they are using the fuel cell application. So coming to India, the Tata Motors is almost running 10 buses in India based on the fuel cell. Mahindra is also using hydrogen from the IC engine, not in the fuel cell. And Indian Oil is mixing this hydrogen with the CNG, that is called IK, on trial basis. So these are all about Indian scenario. So this is the actual bus. Myself on the way traveled actually the fuel cell bus. No bus, most of it's no noise, very silent bus, no pollution. So I traveled with the bus. It is IIT Mumbai on trial basis. It's a company people. The bus, we are transfer technology. So these are all about the hydrogen mutation and utilization. So when you have this water as a base for the generating fuel and utilizing that fuel, again we are getting that water. This is the combination of all hydrogen generation and utilization. The source is sun. So this is the water is the main source for this mitigating the global warming or climate change. So water is the base for mitigating the entire environment. So with this, I think I can conclude this meeting. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, you can ask me. I can try to answer the question. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Dear participants, if you have any queries, directly interact with the speaker.
You can feel free to ask no problem. No, so even if it's a good question, no problem.
Yeah.
Mainly, I expect questions from the students.
Dear participants, dear participants, okay. Any questions, please ask.
The concept is correct.
One question from the chat box. What is the running cost, maintenance cost of fuel cell?
So running cost we cannot direct it because it's depending on what kind of vehicle you are using. For example, if you take the bus, the Tata bus, it's almost 20 kilowatt bus. So if we compare that hydrogen and that running on this, we have to compare that. So the cost of petrol and how much carbon dioxide is emitting, that is also we have to take into account. So we cannot direct it to the cost of the vehicle because it is depending on that size of the vehicle.
Okay.
So it is actually the price will be very, very less compared to the petrol or diesel because 1 liter to 1 kilo is almost 210 rupees per kg. 1 kilo is almost 11,000 meter cube of hydrogen.
Okay, sir. We go to next question, sir. What is the utilization percentage of fuel cell in India?
Utilization percentage almost right now only 10 buses are running that is assembled by Tata Motors. Only trial basis is going on. Almost on public utility, almost no buses available. No any car is available right now. Right now, no public utility buses are not available. It is everything is on trial basis only in India, whereas in other countries it is available.
Okay, sir. Next question, sir. On safety aspect, when will go for large systems?
It is safe compared to gasoline. This is very, very safe because the hydrogen is a very lightest gas. This is 0.08. Where the density is very less, it will go. If there is any leak in that hydrogen gas from the vehicle, the gas will go upward direction only. Whereas in the case of petrol or diesel, it will propagate in that lateral way. So if it catches fire also, it will give damage to the material, not to the human being. Because it will the fire will propagate in the upward direction only. Whereas in the case of petrol and diesel, it is liquid that will propagate in the lateral section, that will give more damage. So compared to petrol and diesel, this is more safe. In addition to that, in the buses, so many places that we install this, what is that, sensor. If there is any mixing of this gas, hydrogen gas, oxygen, it will automatically shut down the entire fuel system. We are in a safer environment.
Okay, sir. Sir, from my side, for making one student project in a small prototype level, one small fuel cell based e-vehicle, what will be approximate cost for student level project?
Oh, student level project, you can make it, even if you want to give a small watt, 100 watt or 50 watt, 10 watt, it will be around 5,000. That's all.
Okay, sir. Then how much amount of fuel cell is needed for making one small prototype cell?
Again, it is depend on how much the what engine you are going to run. So, for small vehicle, the recommends, for example, if you want to run a small car, the recommend is kilowatt recommend is very less. But if you want to have a full bus, right, full AC and 20-seater, 25-seater for 35-seater vehicle, it is around 20 kilowatts. So accordingly, we have to have a fuel cell system and DC-DC converter, everything is there. So everything is dependent on the requirement. Physically, you cannot tell this one.
Okay, sir. Any questions from participants?
Rahul sir,
Yes, sir. Go on, sir. You can ask directly, sir.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Really nice presentation. Sir, I have one question, sir, regarding this fuel cell. Sir, how you are comparing the efficient way of batteries and fuel cells? Which one is better? Because both are in current way we are having batteries, but in future, no doubt, fuel cells are also it comes to the future, and we are going to use. So, which one is better, and what is the difference between these two?
Excellent. Very good question. So, whether you use batteries or fuel cell, that will give only electricity to run the vehicle. Am I correct? So, batteries will store the energy. Whatever the stored energy will be reused. Whereas, in the case of fuel cell, it is not stored energy. On board, you are generating electricity. So, once you discharge the batteries, you have to wait for charging. After charging, only you can take the vehicle. Whereas in the case of fuel cell, you don't need to charge. As long as you have cylinders, we can supply hydrogen. This vehicle will run like petrol and diesel. Once the gas is exhausted, we can just put the release to fill the filling station like petrol station, we can fill the hydrogen and we can go. Whereas in the case of batteries, we need to wait for charging and they are cycle life. Whereas in the case of fuels, as long as you supply hydrogen, it will work. This onboard generating electricity. Whether that is battery stored energy, whatever stored energy, we can use it. Once it takes us, again we have to charge it. That is not the case with fuel cell.
Yes.
I may convey to your answer. We need more.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have one more question, sir. Sir, in the current situation, we know everyone that petrol and diesel prices going on around. It goes to 100.
Going on. Yeah, correct.
And then batteries nowadays, no doubt in future also battery almost 90% of supply is from China. So, so this batteries, is there any improvement in India we are going to design or any battery?
Correct. Yeah. So currently people are using we are not using the lead acid battery, current battery, the vehicle switching light, that battery we are not using for mobility purpose. We are actually go to this lithium battery. Whatever the battery we have in cell phone, this we are preparing big way that is used for vehicle purpose. Whatever the batteries we have in cell phone, the same battery is used for this vehicle mobility also.
Yes.
So that is lithium battery. So lithium, we don't have any resource in India. Only 4 countries have in the world. That is Chile is number 1, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, and US, China. These are the 5 countries having lithium source. So we have to depend on this lithium. It is very costly. So that is why the batteries are very costly. So people in Sikri, we are working on sodium batteries. Like lithium, sodium ion batteries. So sodium is very, very less. It is available in the sea water. We can have it. But there are other mobility that it does not give performance compared with lithium. So we try to improve the performance of the sodium battery so that it can match with the lithium batteries. So future we can have sodium batteries, sodium ion batteries instead of lithium ion batteries. So if we develop batteries of sodium based system, the cost will come down. We don't need to depend on, as I told, we don't need to import from China or any other country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your.
Okay, sir. Next question from chat box, sir. What about cooling system for fuel cell?
Cooling system now we are based on this air cooling. I mean, air cooling system is efficient to cool the system actually. And we are not having so much, rise in temperature because since instead of using this, what is that, oxygen, we are having this air for this cathode side. That air will contain oxygen that is used for reaction, and the air blowing through this cell will be used for cooling the system.
Okay, so thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. From the beginning, I have noticed you have did many research and you have global idea. You have shared many global ideas with us. Then we need some ideas and inputs for getting funds for research projects, which may be helpful for our students, always for a research community, also for teaching.
You can approach the DSIR. That is apart from CSR, it is the DSIR. That is that is funding for the students. You can simply get it. If you write to DSIR with the ideas, they will give fund for you. It is mainly meant for new ideas for students, specifically meant for students. You can easily get it. You can visit the site of the DSIR.
Okay, sir. Participants, any other doubts? Sir, next one question in chat box.
Okay.
What's delaying introduction for fuel cells in India at current situation?
Good question. Again, it's a difficult question for me because some of the policy has to be changed. Because now government is promoting this battery based vehicle. So policy you have to change, and you can depend on this. Even if scientists invent a nuclear bomb, whether that is to be tested or not, decided by the government. So the policy matter is the main thing for this implementation, and slowly it will be implemented. Now, earlier 2 years back, we have only 2 buses. Now it is 10 buses are running. So slowly it will come. So how much time it will require, we don't know.
Okay.
Again, depend on the policy of the government.
Okay, sir. Thanks, sir. Any other questions, participants? Okay, sir. Sir,
Okay.
Dr. Rama, sir, shall we end up the session?
Yeah. Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ravi